To It's Okay Not to Be Okay, a presentation by SHALVA. Before we get started today, let me just briefly tell you a little bit about who SHALVA is and what we do. We've been around for 33 years. We are proud to say that we're the oldest independent Jewish domestic violence counseling agency in the country. We offer free counseling to any woman who self-identifies as Jewish, who's in an abusive relationship with an intimate partner. We support anyone who identifies as Jewish. And if you call our services and you're not Jewish, we still will give you referrals and get you to the best place for help. We do acknowledge that men can also be victims of abuse. And if a man calls and asks for referrals, we will help him with that. The good news is that SHALVA is open for business. Our 24-hour hotline is available, and although we function as a Jewish agency, we will, during these COVID times, we are talking to our clients by phone. SHALVA's mission is to support Jewish women experiencing and healing from domestic abuse through counseling, supportive services, and community education. Our vision is that we believe every woman has the right to be safe in her intimate partner relationship. So what we're going to talk today is how to take care of yourself during these COVID times, during this pandemic. But before I get started, I want you to understand that those of you who are not in abusive relationships are having a difficult time trying to take care of yourself during these past 2.5 months. But imagine if you're either living with your abuser or separated from your abuser, there's a whole nother layer of stress and anxiety that's going on for our clients that I'll be referring to throughout this talk today. For many people, and ourselves included, it's about the uncertainty surrounding COVID that's the hardest thing to handle. We don't know what's going to happen, if we're going to be infected, if we won't be infected, if we'll get sick, what we would do if we did get sick, what about our loved ones? And it makes it all too easy to catastrophize and spin out as we're trying to figure out this overwhelming situation. But there are things that you can do to allay your anxiety and your fears, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we start on that particular topic, let's begin looking at what's going around us and understand how stress and anxiety are associated with COVID-19. So we all know what stress is. It's a physiological and a psychological reaction to the demands of life. It's normal to feel stressed. We've all done it. We know, and we also know that when we do feel stressed, if we kind of have a plan in place to deal with the stress, it gets better. The problem is that when the stress becomes overwhelming, or we don't have a plan, or we just allow it to happen, it can trigger anxiety. Anxiety is this general feeling of unease and worry or fear. It's kind of like the story about Chicken Little, who said, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. The sky hasn't fallen, but we're afraid that it might. It's the brain's response, and it happens when we believe that something dangerous or unfortunate may happen. And anxiety, just like stress, has all kinds of physical symptoms and psychological symptoms. You can have trouble and cognitive symptoms. You can have trouble concentrating. Have you noticed that? Difficulty finishing routine chores, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, eating too much, eating too little, body aches and leg aches and headaches, and you feel irritable and angry and sometimes even helpless and hopeless. Have you noticed how tired you are? And have you wondered, how can I be so physically tired when I'm not doing anything all day? Well, the truth of the matter is, it's all in your head, literally and figuratively. When you're anxious, your brain is on overload and it's working awfully hard and it's exhausting. So the exhaustion you feel is from anxiety and stress. So let's talk about how we can help you reduce some of that anxiety and stress. And just so you think about it, our SHALVA clients are always feeling anxiety and stress, even before this pandemic started. Now, the stress and anxiety for them is literally through the ceiling. They're worried If they're living with their abuser, then they're enduring almost 24/7 being told how they don't know anything, how they're not parenting the right way, how they're not doing anything correctly. They're hearing it constantly how terrible they are. If they're separated from their abuser, as is true for some of our clients, they're worried, will he keep the kids safe? Will he be putting them in dangerous situations? Will he bring them back? The other problem is the courts are closed. The domestic violence courts are all closed. And so there's this fear of, what if something happens? Is the court available to help me? And the answer is the courts are available, but primarily to hear emergency cases. And the courts aren't open to hear the day-to-day issues that can come up in abusive relationships. So when you ask how are our clients doing, which some of you ask, they're having a really hard time, because the abuse is all about control and manipulation. And now this is aggravating all of the previous stress and anxiety they're experiencing. So what we're going to talk about is what we talk about in sessions with clients: how to best manage your stress and anxiety. How can we control what feels uncontrollable? And we all know the basics of self-care. We've heard them hundreds of times. Every time you turn on the news, if I asked you to repeat them, you'd tell me, wash your hands for 20 seconds, eat healthy, try to get the right amount of sleep, try to get the right amount of exercise, keep a regular schedule. But what can you do when you're doing all those things, or even you're tired of doing all those things? So let's expand upon some of the well-known basics that we use with our clients when they're dealing with stress and anxiety. One of the things you can do is focus on the things that you can control. When we start what-ifing, or catastrophizing as I call it, we start spiraling down and we get more and more exhausted, overwhelmed, and drained and anxious. So when you feel yourself going down that direction or going down that path, you want to think about how to stop that. And one of the ways to do it is to ground yourself in the moment. What does that mean? It means to just focus on your breathing. It means to focus all your attention on the here and now. Maybe you'll focus on what you can see, or what you can feel, or what you can hear. Another idea, when you feel yourself, that anxiety creeping up and you know that you're going in a bad place, is to focus on your breath. We all inhale and exhale, but did you know there's scientific thought that the longer you exhale, the more it will affect your anxiety by shutting down the flood of stress hormones that trigger it. So to do that, you might want to just take a minute and think about how long it takes you to inhale. And so you might want to count that out, and how long it takes you to exhale, and count that out. Now, when I did it myself, I found out that I inhale much longer than I exhale. So one of the things I'm working on is to try to exhale longer on those times when I'm feeling anxious. Another thing you can do is stay informed, so you can follow whatever the current advised safety precautions are. I want you to stick to trustworthy sources like the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, or the World Health Organization. It doesn't do you any good to listen to the news outlets 24/7. So I want you to think about limiting your exposure to the media, and also to the conversations you may be having with friends and relatives about all the terrible things that may or may not happen. You can also control things like social distancing. You can avoid crowds and large gatherings of more than 10 people. You can avoid non-essential shopping, trips, and travel, and you can get plenty of sleep. Something else that helps you feel better about yourself and take better care of yourself is actually helping others. Doing something helpful, kind, and helpful acts can give you a sense of control over your own life. So what are some of those things you can do? Well, we keep hearing about the food banks. They need food. They need people to help distribute the food, to help organize it. Try doing that. Try reaching out to others in need. You know, the other day I got a phone call from one of the organizations that I'm a member of, and she was just calling to see how I was doing. And I was so shocked. I said, well, I'm fine. Why are you calling? And she said, we're just reaching out to our membership. And when I thought about it, I thought, what a kind and considerate thing to do. And so call people, see how they're doing. You know, SHALVA just launched this fabulous new learning device called How to Help a Friend on our website. So if you want to help us, go to shalvacares.org and try out this new tool, How to Help a Friend. You can also set priorities. This is not the time, and I know in the beginning we said, oh, we can clean out our closets, we can paint the house, we can tear up the landscaping and dig out all new landscaping. This is not the time to learn Chinese or Russian or anything serious. This is the time to set small, realistic goals that you can accomplish and make you feel good. We don't need you feeling bad for not being able to get the things done that you need to get done. And you want to take those goals as small as they are and even break them into smaller, manageable parts. Something we can all do and enjoy is watch a funny movie. The endorphins that we get from laughing help with stress and anxiety. Journaling is something that we also do that can be helpful for our clients. It's very hard for our clients to think about positive things. And in journaling, you can have a gratitude journal where in the evening, perhaps, before you're going to bed, you keep a book by an empty notebook or a pad of paper, and you write down things that you're thankful for or that you're grateful for. This is an incredibly hard thing for our clients to do because they start off not being able to think of anything they did well that day. And when they've done this exercise over the course of a couple of weeks, it gets easier and easier. So try that. Also, what you might want to do around your table at mealtime, with my grandchildren, they taught me about something called thorns and roses. And everybody goes around the table and says a thorn and a rose. So from the name, you can figure out that a thorn is something that didn't go so well for you today, and a rose is something that you really enjoyed. A really good example of how to take better care of yourself is to think about how you talk to yourself. So self-talk is something that we all do, and it doesn't mean you're crazy. It means that you just have this internal dialogue going on a regular basis when things are like, what did I do with my keys? And what about this? And what about that? And it's a useful tool to work on. For our clients, their self-talk is peppered with their partners' put downs and telling them how they can't do anything and they'll never meet somebody else, how stupid they are, what a bad parent they are, how little they matter. So I want you to take a minute in the next couple of days and kind of tune into your self-talk. Is your self-talk primarily negative, or is your self-talk primarily positive? And hopefully, unlike our clients who start off with fairly negative self-talk, you can see where you are on the spectrum and start working to try to move that arrow more toward the positive side. So how do you do that? For our clients, it's getting his voice out of her head. And that's the most important thing. And eliminating that negative chatter. There's an interesting woman, Brene Brown, who does all kinds of TED Talks, and she actually gave a name to her negative self-talk. She calls it her gremlins, and she tries to make the gremlins stop talking. So you want to try to eliminate the negative chatter as much as you can, and you want to think about positive affirmations. So what does that mean? So when you're saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe how stupid that was, I can't believe I did that, what's wrong with me? Instead of that, think about some short sentences that you can have maybe even written down that are believable and focused and easy to repeat over and over again. It can be something as simple as, I'm trying as much as I can. I'm doing a good job. And to replace those negative thoughts, kind of to counter them with, hey, I'm doing the best I can. lighten up on myself. And the other thing is that sometimes our interactions with friends and relatives aren't always so positive. We may have friends who call and do nothing but complain to us and tell us how terrible things are going to be and they're never going to get any better. And that's hard to listen to. So this may not be the time to reach out to those people and have those conversations if it's hurting you and helping you to be, causing you to be more negative. So self-talk is important because it can make you more optimistic. It can actually physically reduce pain and make you physically feel better, reduce stress and anxiety, and give you greater life satisfaction. So it's one of those tools that you can use to really make yourself feel better. It takes time and practice to incorporate, but at the end of the day, a state of gratitude can do wonders for you. When you can think about yourself and say something positive about yourself, that's a great thing. So I see that, do you have any questions as we go through this? And I see that there's a question about how to talk to your kids. So I really like that you asked that, because our children, especially if we're sheltering in place with our children, they're hearing everything that's going on. So you may have a conversation with them based on their age about, what do you know, just kind of being curious, what do you know about COVID-19 or the coronavirus? And start off by seeing what they know. And that way you can see if they have misinformation or mistakes, and then you can kind of help allay their fears and anxieties if that's what's coming up, and correct the way they're thinking. Kids, even more than adults, are incredibly susceptible to believing rumors. They think if they hear something, it's true. They don't have the life experience to know that maybe something was said in humor or someone was just catastrophizing. They don't have those filters that we have as adults. So it's important that you share enough with them to help them stay safe and answer their questions in an age-appropriate manner. Especially when you're when you're talking to your friends on the phone or on FaceTime like we're doing, just be aware that your children are probably listening. I know we're always saying, oh, our kids don't hear us and they don't listen to us, but they do. My mother used to say that little pitchers have big ears, which is her way of saying children hear everything. So you want to model calmness. You don't want to have those conversations with your friends about gloom and doom. And in terms of the media, you want to limit what the media is on. And even though you enjoy watching the news 24/7, it's not a good thing for your children. So you want to limit their exposure to the news. Also, I was looking online, and NPR has come up with a really nice comic strip for kids called Goats and Sodas. Goats and Soda. And if you go to the NPR website and Google just for kids comics, that will come up. Any other questions? Let's see. How can I help my kids? How are SHALVA clients doing during this time? SHALVA clients, as I said before, are having a really difficult time. Sheltering in place with an abuser is probably their worst nightmare. He is with them 24/7 and trying to control and manipulate. The clients who are living separately from their abusers are also concerned, because if their abuser takes the children for scheduled time, she's worried, will he bring them back? Will they be exposed to the virus? Will he be careful? Will they be wearing masks? How can I make this happen? All kinds of issues that are raising their anxiety even more. And what's happening also is clients that were doing really well throughout this pandemic are slowly not doing as well. And sometimes it's just a matter of checking in. They can feel very isolated and very alone. Another question. What is catastrophizing? Catastrophizing is actually a word, and it's when you're sure the worst will happen. Even though you don't have any proof that it's going to happen, you're sure that horrible things are going to go on. I was catastrophizing the other night as I was going to sleep. It's like, for the time being, I've been pretty good about being safe. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, what if I get the virus? What if I get sick? Who's going to take care of me? What? There's no cure. There's no treatment. Well, people are dying from this. And then all of a sudden I was going down the rabbit hole, as we said. And that's a perfect example of catastrophizing. There's nothing I can do about I'm doing all I can to prevent it. I'm being safe. I'm making good decisions, and I'm doing the best I can. So I quickly changed into self-talk and told myself basically to stop it. I even held up a stop sign and said, that's enough. You're only making yourself more upset. And that's a really good example of catastrophizing and how to get around it. Is it the same as anxiety? I think it is. It's usually catastrophizing. There's nothing in particular that you're afraid of. You're afraid you're going to lose your job. You're afraid you're not going to be able to pay the mortgage or the rent. You're afraid you're not going to be able to take care of your children. They're all fears. So it's fear-based, but there's nothing to base those fears on except the unknown. Other questions? Okay. Anything else? All right. I think that in the end, you need to recognize that some days will just be better than others. And that's the way it is. Do you remember that wonderful book, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day? At the end, he said, I guess there are some days that are just better than others. And that's the way it is. It's just true. It's okay that you're not okay. You need to let go of what you can't manage. And you need to be gentle and forgiving with yourself. It's okay not to get everything done in one day. Tomorrow's another time. It's being able to accept that and being able to understand that we can only control what we can control. If I boil down everything that I talked about today on how to survive during these very difficult times, it would be this: show yourself some kindness, because kindness is the best self-care we can give ourselves. So thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions, always feel free to call the SHALVA number. We are taking phone calls. We are responding to them. You can go to our website. You can call us at 773-583-4673 for yourself, for a loved one, for whatever you need when it comes to abuse. Thank you again. And please be kind to yourself.